A man walks into a bank. Same branch his mother uses, same employees, same afternoon. His mother keeps around $500,000 there. He keeps around $1,000. With her, they're warm. They walk her to a desk. They want to introduce her to a wealth manager, like she's someone worth knowing. With him, nothing. No offer, no advisor, no warmth. Same family, same building, same staff. Two completely different versions of the same bank. And the only thing that changed was the number on the screen. Now, before this becomes a video about cruel bank tellers, it isn't one. Most of the people at that counter aren't cruel. A lot of them are kind. They're running a process someone else built. This is about what large systems are trained to notice first. And it's rarely your character. The person in front of you can see your face, but the system behind them sees your file, your balance, your transaction history, your debt, your risk level, how much you might still buy. And in a lot of situations, the file speaks louder than the face. So if you've ever stood somewhere, a bank, a phone line, a service desk, and felt yourself quietly become less important for no reason you could name, this is for you. Here's the part that's easy to miss. A big system can't pay full attention to everyone. Millions of people, a limited amount of warmth to hand out. So it builds shortcuts. You already know these shortcuts. You've just never called them that. The traveler who flies a lot gets the shorter line. The customer on the higher plan gets faster support. The account above a certain size gets a private number and a real human who calls back. And the customer who isn't worth much, economically, gets quietly routed into the default, the script, the hold music. A shortcut like that isn't always a conspiracy. Sometimes it's just how a system decides where attention goes. But here's what makes it land differently. Someone who worked at a credit union for 2 years said they were taught, actually taught, that if a customer's balance was over $100,000, staff had to be, quote, extra nice. Sit with that. The warmth wasn't a mood. It wasn't whether the teller liked you. It was a rule, a threshold. Cross the line, get the smile. Stay under it, get the process. You weren't imagining the difference. Somebody wrote it down. And once you see it as a threshold, you start noticing what happens when someone crosses one. A guy gets $100,000 wired into his account, a gift from his dad for a down payment. Within days, the bank calls. It's been too long since he spoke with his advisor, they say. The catch? That phone call was how he found out he had an advisor. He didn't get wiser overnight. He didn't get more polite overnight. His balance moved, so the relationship appeared. Another person describes going from sitting at minus $45 most of the time to a bank approving a $200,000 loan in 25 minutes, sometimes not even checking credit. Just, here, you're approved. Same person, continuous, the same human being the whole way through. The system's response is not continuous. It updates the second the signal changes, and it runs the other direction too. One person put it plainly. All the calls dried up once the money left the account. The warmth was never really attached to them. It was attached to the number. So why does this sting so much more than it should? It's only customer service. Because of a quiet mismatch between what the system is measuring and what you're feeling. The system is measuring account value, how much you hold, how much you owe, how much you might earn it. That's all it's doing, running a number. But you don't experience it as a number. When someone lights up for your mother and barely registers you, you don't feel like a lower margin account. You feel invisible. The system is doing math. You're taking it as a verdict on your worth. And sometimes the system says the quiet part out loud. One person noticed that the moment their balance jumped, they became, in the bank's words, a valued customer. So they looked back at what they'd been labeled before that. The word was liability. Liability. a cost, a risk, something to be managed. That's why it lands like a slap. For a moment, a person you are gets filed under a thing the system would rather not carry. And once you know the shape of it, you see it everywhere people talk about money. Someone says banks claim to value loyalty, but the truth is they treat you better the less you actually need them. That's not bitterness, it's a mechanism. Needing the bank makes you lower leverage. Not needing it makes you attractive. Which is why people notice banks seem most eager to lend exactly when you don't need the money. Then there's debt, which bends the rules in a strange way. There's an old line among bankers: owe the bank a little and the problem is yours. Owe the bank an enormous amount and the problem becomes theirs. A man who'd owned a few dealerships said it plainer: owe a couple $100,000 and they've got you. You dance to their tune. Owe 6 or 7 million and they roll out the red carpet to help you succeed. Not because big borrowers are better people, because a small debt makes you manageable and a huge one makes you strategically important. The signal flips. And character doesn't rescue you here. Someone said it bluntly: responsible, disciplined people with no money get sorted the same as everyone else with no money. Not because discipline doesn't matter in life, because discipline is hard to quantify, and a balance is easy to sort. The system reaches for what it can measure. Underneath all of it, the same sentence keeps surfacing in different words. It's your money that's loved, not necessarily you. To a large bank or an app that doesn't know you at all, you don't show up as a story. You show up as a $sign. So here's the reframe, the thing I actually want you to take from this. You probably walked into experiences like this believing the treatment was a measurement of your worth. That the smile your mother got and you didn't was a quiet scoreboard and you'd come up short. But most of the time, it isn't measuring your worth at all. It's measuring the value of your file to the system. Those are two completely different things that happen to feel identical in the moment. This doesn't make the experience harmless. It still hurts. Standing there feeling small is real, and naming the mechanism doesn't erase it, but it changes what the experience means. If someone else gets the faster callback because their account is more profitable, that isn't proof they're more human than you. It's proof the system has a financial reason to protect that relationship. Their humanity was never on the table. Neither was yours. Only the files were being compared. You're not a person the world decided was worthless. You're a person a system read quickly, by the one signal it knows how to read. The smile was never really about who your mother is. It was about what her file is worth to them. A smaller, colder thing than it looked like from where you were standing. There's a line I keep coming back to. The system isn't actively cruel to you when you have little. It's just indifferent. But indifference at a large enough scale feels exactly like cruelty. That's the real shape of it, not malice, indifference. A system doesn't need to hate you to make you feel small. It only has to not notice you. And that indifference turns sharp in the most ordinary moments. When someone else gets the callback, when someone else gets the smile, when someone else gets the advisor, when your question becomes a ticket instead of a relationship. That's the part that hurts, not just the service, the meaning you start handing to it. So here's the one thing worth holding on to. A balance is not a biography. A profile is not a person. A system can read you as a number. That's its job, and it will keep doing it. The only real mistake is reading yourself the same way, letting the number the system assigned become the number you believe.